We're delighted to have you here. This is the second in the CLTC speaker series for this semester, so make sure to keep a lookout into my working group students. It's great to see all of you. If you haven't already, grab some lunch. And now I'll just turn things over to the CLTC Executive Director, Anne Cleveland, who's going to introduce our wonderful speaker. Thank you again for taking this. And over to you.
Okay, great. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see so many familiar faces and a handful of new ones. So this is the CyberMētis or CyberMētis series. And for those of you who are not schooled in Greek or Latin or the law, like me, CyberMētis really refers to the practice of cybersecurity. So what we're trying to do with this series is have great conversations with people who are out there in the field practicing cybersecurity about things that you can learn, beyond the classroom in this career. So we're so delighted that Hakeem Oseni has joined us today. I'm going to read the official bio. He works at Salesforce as Senior Product Manager, Detection and Response in the cybersecurity team. Prior to that, he spent 5 years at Wells Fargo as Vice President of Encryption Services for the Cybersecurity Division at Wells Fargo. He's on the Bay Area leadership team of Cyversity, a nonprofit that helps support women and BIPOC people in cybersecurity. Hakeem has an MBA from the Tupper School of Business with concentrations in finance, technology, and strategy. He is passionate about D&I and education efforts in cybersecurity and recently completed his Master's of Information and Cybersecurity at UC Berkeley. So it's nice to have an alum. I'm so excited about this conversation because I think Hakeem's remarks are going to share with all of us so much about what makes somebody an effective leader in cybersecurity, but honestly in any career and on any team. So let's take it away.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming in the rain. Thank you, Mike's. Thank you, CLTC. Thank you, Berkeley. Thank you to the land that we're on. And thank you. And hey, happy Black History Month. I'm really happy to be here. So let's get this going. So thank you, I'm Hakeem. During the day, I work at Salesforce, but I'm not here in that capacity. I'm here as a fellow bear, a graduate of a great School of Information and a partner of the CLTC. So I'm just here to talk to you about how you can use cyber diplomacy and interpersonal communication and skills to further your own cyber agenda. Your cyber agenda, and many of you are graduating, you're going to get jobs, and you're going to go into the workplace and you have to get something done, right? So here's some tips and tricks, some things to think about as you go about your journeys. So I want to start off with 3 personas because I'm a product manager, so you always have to talk about your personas. Let's talk about the VP Abdul. He has to do board reports. He has to get budget and headcount. He has to sort of manage up, right? We have manager Scott. Scott has about 7 or 8 engineers reporting to him, maybe some analysts, maybe some scrum masters, and he has several sort of strategic projects that he's working on, and he needs to keep them in flight. And then you have Priya. Priya's a brand new Mike's or Men's graduate. She's just started, she's probably interned at the company, and she's trying to feel her way. She's the new kid on the block, all right? So let's just keep those 3 personas in mind, and hopefully I'll come back to them as I go through my slides. All right, so I'm gonna start off with a quote from Dale Carnegie, a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. The only way I can get you to do anything is by giving you something that you want. All right, so we're all here today. I don't know if you noticed, as we came in, I shook almost everyone's hand. Did I miss anyone's hand? All right, so why did I do that? 2 reasons. You're here for something. I want to thank you. I want you to feel ingratiated. I wanted you to feel welcome. But I also wanted to make myself feel more comfortable, right? I was like, oh, it's a new crew. I don't know you guys. I haven't seen you. Haven't been in a formal setting in a long time, right? So like, it's my way of sort of breaking that barrier of I'm here to present, I'm here to talk, and sort of making it less formal, right? I also know you want to get something out of this. So, I talked to somebody about your careers, where you're going to work. Do you need a referral? Whatever it is, at least have established that connection. All right. So, what are ways that you can sort of help? Let's say you get to a meeting, your persona, Priya starts her first conference call, and the manager is leading the call. What are some of the ways that you can figure out what people want? Everyone wants recognition, they want acknowledgement, but what are some of the ways you can do it? I find it great to start off with an icebreaker, a silly joke. What did you do this weekend? What's your favorite food? Anything that's not about the task that we have to do. What's your favorite meal? Are you a morning person? Are you a night person? I think this morning I came on, we were talking about the rain, the snow up north. Are you able to make it into the office? Anything besides a problem that we're about to get engaged with. And if you're early, don't wait until the leader of the call comes there. Strike a conversation with whoever's there, right? Because in order to move your agenda forward, you're always going to have to rely on the efforts of other people, right? You can't do it yourself. You have to rely on other people, and establishing those direct lines of communication with people in any way, shape, or form is the best way to get them negotiated to you. Y'all feel free to ask me questions or tell me to slow down. This is interactive. I don't want to feel like I'm preaching from the pulpit or anything like that. Right. Okay. So, of course, it's important to understand why we're there, right? So make sure you state the North Star. We're here to talk about influencing people. Some would say manipulating people, getting them to your side, making them do something that they don't want to do, right? Without them having to feel like they're being manipulated, right? Or to steer people in the right direction. We're here to give everyone acknowledgement, right? To make them feel human in this field of work. We're here to make Priya feel like she's appreciated. We're here to make Scott feel like he's respected as a manager. And we're here to support our VP as he gets us more funding for our strategic projects. I'm here to be empathetic, right? I need to sort of understand where you are in your life. I need to understand where you are in your journey so that I know how to interact with you, right? Say during COVID, a lot of people had kids in school runs or kids at home, and usually you're like, oh, there's kids in the background, this is distracting. Well, I have to understand where you are in your life. You have to understand that, hey, I can't really rely on you during these specific hours. You're on a school run, you're coming home, you're doing homework, or just whatever it is. Your wife could be sick, your husband could be sick, whatever that situation is. If I know you and I have that single connection with you, I'm going to be able to interact with you better. And I'm going to be able to respect you, and you're going to be able to respect me because I'm going to respect your personal boundaries. All right. Last, sort of establish roles and responsibilities based on people's likes, right? I like to talk, I like to lead, some people like to do minutes, some people like to do lucid charts, whatever it is that person is drawn to, like, give them to that role in this journey that we're on, for this project that we're on, right? Don't necessarily assign people certain roles, let them step up to it because they're going to take some ownership of that. Lastly, make yourself, so I need to establish trust with the people on my team or the project. And one way to establish trust is actually to make yourself vulnerable, right? If I make myself vulnerable to you, if I tell you I'm feeling some sort of way, most people's immediate reaction is, oh, I feel sorry for you, or, oh, can I help? Or that's a true emotion, that's a truth. You're telling me the truth, right? You're not being fake, you're not putting up a front, you're being authentic, right? And that in turn evokes more authenticity in response. Next sort of brain thought is, and this is a quote from The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which was first published in 1989 by Stephen Covey. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. I'm not talking a lot here, but if this was a call or a business call, I'd listen first, right? Maybe I'd set the table, I would set the intent of the meeting, I'd set the agenda, I'd open up a document, but then I'd pause and I'd say, hey, why are you here today? Do you agree with our North Star? Or, why did you come to this lecture today? What are you hoping to get out of it? Right? Give everyone a little bit of airtime, a little bit of mic time to sort of feel out the room, feel out, help them set the agenda, right? You don't want to dictate an agenda. You want to have everyone throw their ideas, whether or not they agree with it or not, and capture them, right? We're going to get to that later. So let's talk about how you demonstrate how you understand people after you've sort of gone around the room, you've taken the temperature of the room, you've set your agenda, and you want to demonstrate that everyone's on board. Some tips and tricks in no particular order. Pause, think, and repeat back. I talk fast and I drink a lot of coffee, and I'm not really good at doing this, but I was talking to Rachel. Take a deep breath, pause, and repeat back what you heard. 2, be intentional about your body language. You can do this in person, but if you're on screen, I say always be on camera and always be aware that you're on camera and people are looking at you and your facial reactions on camera, right? And engage with the camera, like act on the camera, smile, be lively, stand up, give a thumbs up, give a heart, like do something so that the people can see that you're engaged and you're actively looking at them, or you give a shit. Oftentimes, and I sometimes use this to hijack other people's meetings, especially when I don't see somebody actively taking minutes in front of me, sharing their screen, I'll do it myself. Why? It helps me steer the narrative of the program, right? If I'm taking minutes, I can highlight and bold the solutions that I want to get the most attention, right? If I'm not, then, and you'll see people do this, they just people will speak and they don't write anything down. And that means the narrative is lost. So take control of that. And if you don't have access to the document, ask to get access to it so you can take your own minutes or action items, right? Use it as a tool. I'd say weaponize it as a tool, but use it as a tool. Make sure you're using their phrases and their keywords, right? People like to hear, let me think of an example. Anyway, people like to hear the same words and phrases, right? Because it, again, gives them validation that their points have been heard. And then lastly, make sure you get feedback and confirmation that what you've written or what you said is in fact correct. Okay. In any program or project, there's going to be a lot of negative responses. There's going to be a lot of naysayers. There's going to be a lot of people who are like, this is impossible to do. We can't do this right now. This is not my priority, right? And part of what we have to do as a cyber diplomat or cyber person or data person is convince people to play along or just convince them to do one thing, right? So it's important to try and pivot the negative to a positive. Right? And it's hard to do, but you can always double click on questions, right? You can say, so one of the tricks is get the person to say yes 3 times, and the likelihood that they'll say yes the 4th time to whatever it is you wanted them to do at the beginning increases, right? And it can be something like, it's really wet outside, yes. It's cold outside, yes. I'm looking for a job, yes. Great, can you build my new security data lake? Yes, right? So that's a bit manipulative. But you can also, how do you say, ask them like what's most important to them, or ask them a question like, how would you approach this situation? Or if you were in my shoes, how would you get this done, right? So there's ways to take something that's negative and turn it into a positive, right? Never just be like, no, or why, or I need to escalate this to my leadership, because you're just not going to win, right? And as a person coming from Berkeley, you should be able to negotiate and be like, actually, I need to convince you to do it. I don't want your manager to come back and force you to do it. I need to be able to convince you that this is important, this is an initiative we can work on. And even if you say you can't do it now, let's talk about that. When do you think you'll be able to do it? What's blocking you from doing it? Do you need help to do it? Can I help you do it? Can you give me access to your sandbox to test it out in, right? What creative ways can we collaborate on? So anytime you hear a negative, think about that as a challenge and try to pivot that to a positive. Another thing I try to do is, I was told to do this early in my career, was try to plant the idea so that it seems like it's their idea. What's that movie? It's what? Inception, yeah. So I'm not really good at doing that, but some people really are. So they'll ask you 3 questions, all of a sudden you'll be like, oh my God, we need a security data lake. And we need that as soon as possible, right? But so maybe you ask them questions about their business problems that they're having, right? And you can create these narratives before you actually enter the conversation, but that's another great way to sort of avoid people saying, stop, no, don't, I don't have time. Another quote from Dale Carnegie is, people rarely succeed unless they're having fun at what they're doing. We work in a field where everything's about, the dark web, threats, war. It's not fun. It's not fun at all, right? So how are you going to make something fun, right? And it's a hard thing to do. So, a lot of times I use silly gifs, crack jokes at the beginning of their calls. You have to make it fun because it's so dark and dreary. And sometimes you read the news, it sounds like we're fighting a losing battle, right? Like the hackers and the breachers are but really they're not. So try and make this a fun experience for your team, however you can, right? Be silly, but you have to be serious as well. Crack your jokes. I think they call it a shit posting channel in some orgs where you just have your opinion and just post all this stuff that you wouldn't necessarily post in a business sense just to get it off your chest, right? So, and that's where people sort of crack their jokes about life, the industry, but then you come back to work and it's serious. So you have that venue, especially if you're working asynchronously. So just try to remember to be authentic, silly, not so serious, but have a place for people to blow off steam and also be funny about work. I use GIFs all the time in my Slack channels. All right, how am I doing on time here? Bring your whole personality to work, right? I am a Black gay man. I sometimes have more of a handbag on Fridays than I do on Mondays. I bring all of that to the office with me every day. Bring all of that to every conference call every day. I laugh about that every day. I tell my team about what I did over the weekend every day because that's who I am. And the people who enjoy me for who I am enjoy working with me. They expect that when they come to the call. I want to be the senior hall of cybersecurity at Salesforce, right? Hey, Hakeem's got a call. I'm double booked, but there's going to be some nonsense there, and it's going to be sort of silly and funny, and it's going to do something weird, and you're going to leave and be like, oh, hi, I love you, bye, whatever. But I'm going to get you to do what I want you to do. It's all a ruse because I'm like, hey, I want to make you come to my call. I want to convince you to do something that you don't want to do. I want to make you laugh, so I soften the ground, and then I'm going to hit you up with, please, can you build my security data lake as soon as possible, right? So bring your whole self, and whatever that is, right? I don't know, maybe you're data driven, right? Maybe you are encryption driven. Whatever that lens is that you can bring, make that your trait or your secret sauce. Do you have a question?
The question is that sometimes people who are straight shooters, people who like to just talk, some would be very strategic and talk the most sense at the most right part, take over the ground very easily. This is what I've seen. You're making up your case, you're building your castle, and you're trying to get everybody to sync on something, but a higher authority straight shooter comes and kind of blows it away. Have you seen that? And if you have, how have you tackled it?
That's a good question. All right, so it depends on sort of their authority, and it depends on their approach, right? So a couple of things. if the person interrupts and tries to take over the call and it's sort of disturbing my vibe, right? And work is all about vibe. No, really, it's about vibe, like, right? If I'm coming to a call and I feel your vibe is negative, or you're trying to tell me what to do, or you're coming in too heavy, then I don't really want to roll with you. I'm not going to be happy with you. I'm not going to do you any favors, right? But if the vibe is like mission driven, like, and the person's like, hey, like, you know, there's a vulnerability, we have to fix it, it's another Log4j, or like, okay, fine, that's mission driven. But they're coming in to sort of come with authority or something like that. I'll keep quiet, I'll move my comments to the chat, and I'll still keep it vibey and funny and all the rest in the chat. And I'll listen to them, let them get everything sort of out in the air, and then move on, right? Because I think if you try to counter it with an attack, then you're gonna come up with a combative sort of engagement there, right? If you let them sort of get all of it out and be like, okay, thank you so much, period. Maybe let's hear from some other people in the room. Let's hear from, I forgot your name. Aparna, right? Let's hear from Rachel. Let's hear from Ann. Let's hear from, right? So just sort of pass the mic around, but definitely let them get it off the chest. But always circle back to, like, let's hear from other people in the room. So I think everyone's opinion is valid. In fact, I was going to say, if I'm going back to my personas, like Priya, the new analyst, has probably got the latest and greatest tools and education because she just came out of Myths or Myth. Like, y'all understand generative AI is the new buzzword. I've been studying that, right? That was like before my time. That was 2 years ago. You know, the VP's been out 10, 15 years. He doesn't know what's going on. And the manager's just been managing stuff, so maybe he's not really technical. So, and usually I think the person coming in with that sort of straight shooter is usually coming from a place of authority, which is fine. We get it, right? But at the end of the day, we still have to build it or build a solution, live with a solution. We have to operationalize a solution, and the people in the middle are the glue that are going to do that. Does that answer your question?
It does. But it also, like, sometimes, like, you don't agree with such an authority and you don't do much about it because you're like, there's no point as well.
So let's double click on that. You don't agree with something that you're being told to do.
Yeah.
And
you have presented a data-backed solution to it. But it's like, that's a good point, but not now.
Yeah. I have this thing of agree to disagree, but move on, right? Because you're not going to win every single battle, right? And yeah, at the end of the day, it's a job of collecting a paycheck, right? If Abdul tells me to, you know, build it this way, then I'll by all means go out and do it. However, don't feel silence, right? So write your paper, state your case, park it somewhere, because, you know, in 6 months, when everything fails or crashes and somebody says, hey, like, let's do a retro and figure this out, at least your name's going to come up and be like, hey, she identified this risk, she brought it up, she delivered the document, nobody listened, right? Maybe let's listen to her again and see if we can fix it using what she suggested, right? So document it, keep it, park it, let it go, and then move on. But also be conscious, like, you know, there's politics at play everywhere. So try to understand the politics of what's going on before you start to counter that argument. We can talk about that later. That's interesting. Okay, so find your brand, find your lens, find your flavor, find your vibe, and always state your passion. I think what you said is just, that's your passion. Your passion is like, I have data, I have driven, but agree to disagree and move on. Okay. Be punctual, be personable, and be professional, right? Here's some things, just going, random thoughts, right? I'm a stickler for time. I believe if you start your meeting at 1 o'clock, you should be there at 1 minute to 1. I believe you should be on camera and you should be ready to rock and roll. Not everyone operates that way. You know? So in my brain, I'm like, you know, Hakeem, don't be a dick. Like, wait 5 minutes, crack your jokes, ask how the weather was, ask how the kids are, like acknowledge people have lives, acknowledge people need to take breaks, and start 5 or 10 minutes after. That's fine, right? As long as I can get my agenda done. Always be on camera. I don't understand people who don't like to be on camera. Like, why would you come to a meeting online and not be on camera? Why would you come to a meeting and be on camera and not say anything? because then it's like you're not there, right? And you can have like 20 people on the camera, you can only see like 6 of them. So you actually have to say something if you want to get your video feed to the top, right? So why would you not say something? Like, what's the purpose of you being there if you're not going to contribute? Now, I can understand that. I have people, like I've worked with teams overseas, and when arguments get heavy and English is not their first language, it's sort of a hard thing to do. But then I'm like, okay, leverage a chat. Or if I'm the facilitator of it, I'll be like, let's slow down and pass the mic around the table intentionally to allow everyone to sort of state their opinion. Especially, I'm conscious of women and people whose language is not English, right? Because I'm like, I want to give them the space to express their opinion where it's not pressured or heated, right? If I have somebody who's interrupting, like the gentleman, I'll be like, okay, you pause, let's hear from other people in the room, right? To try to be fair. So be off camera, smile, be conscious of the tone of voice, right? So right now I'm talking to you, I'm sort of nervous, when I get you to the door, sort of cool. After this, I'm happy. I'm going to be like, yay, right? So, just be conscious of your tone. Because sometimes, like, if I come from a call and I'm stressed, or my boss is stressing me out, or I could sound a little bit irritable, or and it might not sound that way in my head, but to other people, it could be a red flag, right? So, and sometimes you want to switch your tone, right? If you're presenting your data and your boss is not liking your data or liking your argument, maybe you have to switch something up. Maybe you wrote something, maybe you have to say it. Maybe you have to take it one, maybe it's your tone, maybe it's your approach, maybe it's your vibe, right? So just try to change the vibe. Because if you hear something in a different way, or from another person sometimes, right? Sometimes you incept it, okay, you didn't like hear it from me, but you might hear it from Peter or Paul or somebody else in the team. So think about those things. Okay, going back to the time thing. Start your minutes 5 minutes after the hour and 5 minutes before the hour. Record where possible. One thing, I'm a LinkedIn whore, right? So ever since I started this game, like every Zoom meeting, every RSA, at the people on stage, hello, my name's Hakeem. I was at Wells Fargo. I'm new to blah, blah, blah. And nice to meet you. Hello, my name's Hakeem. I'm a MITES graduate. It's a pleasure meeting you, right? Every single person, even at work too. Right? Because at work, you might have your org chart, so you understand their authority, but you don't know their expertise until you look at their LinkedIn, right? So if I see your expertise is PKI, or you've worked at Oracle, or you've worked at Cruise or something like that, like I'm gonna be like, okay, well, that's your expertise. I'll be able to sort of pivot you and understand where to go when I need help, okay? And make sure you say their names 3 times. I've already forgotten people's names, but I met you 3 times. I met Aparna, I said your name twice. Ian? Yes. Yeah, thank you. All right, great. So, but 3 times to remember the name. I remember one time I went to a happy hour with a very senior person. There was like 40 people at the happy hour. It was a bar. He was a really senior person, like an EVP. This guy was so great. He didn't wait for people to come to him. He walked around to everybody in the room and spent exactly 2 minutes with everyone. 2 minutes with everyone. And then left. And I was like, wow, that was intentional, on purpose. And he purposely physically walked around the room. He didn't let people meet him. Why? Because he's a politician, right? He understands how to make people feel welcome. He understands the time frame. It's very intentional. So things to think about, right? Always have an agenda. I should tell you, have an objective, have your pre-reads, use your Google Docs and your Slack. I'm a big fan of asynchronous channels. Who use asynchronous channels with WhatsApp? All right. So half discussions and arguments can happen before your meetings and after your meetings if you use them correctly. And you probably only have to meet once. I'm also the worst person because I put like /Giphy and I put the silliest blinky emojis in there right in front of everybody just to make people laugh because life is too serious. Did I capture everything? Oh, words not to say in a meeting, right? Never say, no, you're wrong, right? I don't have time for that. No offense, but, right? Just be very careful in how you counter someone's, like I always say, oh, that's a very interesting. Have you considered, right? Instead of saying, I don't agree with that or you're wrong. That's a good point you're making. I get that. You know what? I'm not too sure about that. Let me circle back and get back to you. Right? Just don't use negative terms if you can avoid them. This is another quote by Dale Carnegie. People are more likely to accept an order they had a part in the decision that caused the order to be issued, right? I think we talked about that, right? It's important to make sure everyone has had a voice in the conversation of the meeting and everyone's opinion has been stated for the record before you come to that decision or make the move. That way everyone feels ownership in the outcome of whatever it is you're building. Everyone has an opinion in the security data lake that's going to be the next generation of blah, blah, blah. Use collaborative tools to share ideas, especially if you're working internationally or if you're working with people who come from different backgrounds. Try to make database decisions. We talked about that. Keep a historical record of the journey and how the decisions were made. So the tool selection, the protocols, just for historical purposes. And again, mandate roundtables and walkthroughs. I added one more thing, the tabletop exercises and disaster recovery exercises. I think everything's great until it breaks, right? And when it breaks and you have to recover, that's when you really find flaws in your apps or your security protocols, right? So I'm not telling you to break something, or you might have time to do that sort of testing, but do a tabletop exercise and have a situation or have an incident and see how your tool or service is going to recover on paper. And that way you'll be able to see gaps, or at least figure out what gaps you need to plug in the outcome in your service or application.
I have a question.
Yep.
That, like, if you're working in an organization that is more like deployment focused, getting features out quickly, security is obviously something that slows them down. So how do you have experience like motivating general IT resources to prioritize like these types of tabletop exercises? Or is it just like hardcore security team and like they get it?
So good question. So it's a product-focused organization who believes time to market is more important than building in security controls. How do you change that culture? I'm not too sure, but here's some things that I would double click on. I would try to work with the people who are handling the keyboard and building that and demonstrate some of the security controls. I'd also look at any incidents that have happened in the past and sort of backtrack to how those incidents could have been prevented if they had done something different in the development life cycle, right? I would use metrics and data to be like, hey, like this is costing us X post-deployment. If you had spent this dollar amount beforehand or this amount of time, you would have, right? Because if you can show the monetary impact of spending a little more time in development than in dealing with all this drama, legal drama, privacy drama, whatever drama you have, that might be a better incentive for at least leadership to look at, right? But at the same time, I would spend time educating and training, and people always talk about training and education of your developers on better security tooling or better ways to do dynamic testing of your code or just whatever it is. But take it down to that sort of kernel, ones and zero hands on keyboard level, right? Because they're the ones who can actually do that change. Does that answer your question?
Yep, I was just trying to think through the tabletop.
Yeah, and the tabletop exercises, that's a good question. Okay, my last slide here is Robert Cialdini published a book, Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion in 1984. There are 6 principles, right? We talked about liking. Remember, I started at Wells Fargo and I was sort of a young cyber person and I was yelling at people for being late to my meeting. One of my managers was like, hey, your engineers actually have to like you. And I was like, I don't like them, they're lazy. They don't show up until 10 o'clock. I'm up at 7, I'm a morning person, I drink so much coffee. It's like, they're always saying, no, they can't do this, or put in the backlog, like, they're not listening to my ideas. And it's like, you have to make these people like you, right? Fast forward 5 years later, we're best friends, but it took effort to get those people to like me, the engineers to like me, to respect me, to do the changes I wanted to. All right. The authority, I think we talked about, like, know everyone in the room, know their experience, whether it's given authority or inferred authority. Like, I don't have any direct reports, but believe you me, I run shop. Wherever I am, I'm going to take that steering wheel and run with it, right? Until somebody bigger than me or a louder voice comes in and says, go this direction. But understand sort of the authority and the power plays in any meeting or situation or organization that you're in. I don't necessarily agree with the scarcity thing, but scarcity means you have a small window to get something done, right? So, hey, I'm Hakeem, I'm building my new security data lake, and if you don't onboard your application this week, next week I'm going to go on to, the next whatever, right? So you have this short amount of time to get this done. Sort of a way to do it. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. But the flip side of that is, if you're my friend and you're like, I can't do this right now, I can't do this today, I'm gonna harass you and be like, hey, what's up? I'm gonna send you a little Vicky, morning, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, it's snowing outside. And one day, in the next 2 weeks, I guarantee you're gonna have a break, right? You're gonna be like, this other project I was working on, which is gonna take me that whole next sprint, is, there's a blocker and I'm sitting on the beach for 2 days. The first person I want you to think of is Hakeem. Yo, Hakeem, what's up? I can do your thing now. I can do your little pilot there. You give me just a little thread there and you're gonna pull that thread all the way through, right? So, work on that relationship, work on that scarcity, and seize the opportunity. Reciprocity. Try to be, how did somebody put it? It's a relationship advice. Try to be the lover that you want, right? So, right? That's a reciprocity. Try to be the lover that you want so that you want yourself, right? In the same way at work, like just try to reciprocate the same behaviors that you would like to see other people treat you with, okay? And last, social consistency. Be consistent, be your authentic self, be funny, have your brand, whatever it is, have your flavor, have your vibe. And last, social proof, just manage your reputation, be conscious of your reputation, right? My reputation at Wells Fargo when I started was he's too hard, he's too heavy hitting. I had to soften that. I had to make my engineers like me. I had to pivot. I had to change it. And 5 years later, I managed what people were saying about me when I wasn't there, okay? Last of all, and thank you so much for this, thanks. Give thanks to everybody. Give thanks all the time. Give thanks to anyone who came to your meeting. Give thanks to people as they walk in the door. Give thanks to them as they leave. Give thanks to them on social media. You cannot, the rewards are endless by saying thank you. I think that's all I have. Questions? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
How much of this do you consciously turn on when you're in a certain setting, or how much of it is sort of just naturally coming to you?
Good question. As an extrovert, probably 60 to 75% is natural. But as a person who, I've been in this game 20 years, right? IT for 20 years, and I think I've grown and matured. You can learn to retool yourself, right? And who's saying feedback is so critical and important to take. I used to take it and I was like, oh, this is harsh, somebody's being very critical of me. But then I was just like, actually take that feedback. I'm going to welcome all the feedback from everybody. I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to document it. I'm going to demonstrate that I'm able to change, that I'm versatile, right? Or that I can change on a dime, because it increases my currency. If somebody gives me advice or a tool or a tactic, if I use it and I report back to them that it worked, then that's a plus for me. So it's easier if you're an extrovert, might be harder if you're an introvert, but it's not impossible. Yes, and yes. Want to? Right?
Yeah, this is easy. We work on medical data. So sometimes I'm very easy to onboarding people join the security issue, but from my experience, it's really hard to mitigate their scarcity. They're so scared that everything can come patient. So how can we, as an executive, how can we mitigate that discussions and make the maybe making up the schedule or making up this project?
So you work on medical data, which
Yes.
is very sensitive,
Yeah,
and you want to just come again one more time?
but just like when I discussed with my engineer,
Mhm.
and they will say, hey, this and that will cause data leak, data breach, and the patient will harm.
Right, right.
So
How do you,
how can I mitigate that discussion? Because in the end of the day, we do have a schedule, we do have something to achieve. But if we just fall into that scarcity, then
right. Okay, so you want to push your product out, but you're not too sure of your data controls?
no, just like every single people has their own opinion.
Opinion. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Test it, right? Just put it. So I would say build it and put it out there, and then have the people who are doubting it test it and be like, listen, like we have to move forward. We have to ship product. If you think there's a vulnerability or a risk, show it to me. Be data driven, right? If you can't hack my box or hack my application, I think when I was doing a nice tax we did something called like full loop privacy. And we were like, okay, like, here it is, here's Amazon S3, blah, 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 like break it. If you can't break it, then state your opinion, that's fine. That's fear. What do you say? Fear, something, and like this, like you're being skeptic, right? But show me data, break it. Does that help you?
Yeah, but if there are some like clinicians or like medical doctor, they're aware of that, which is maybe stand for our customer. And they have zero knowledge about the security, but they have a lot of scarcity. What can we deal with that?
Invite them to a tabletop exercise, maybe like walk them through all their scenarios. Okay, yeah, okay, so if somebody's non-technical, spend time with them. I don't think it's answer the question immediately, so you're not going to win them over. But if you do a tabletop exercise or a disaster recovery exercise, and you walk them through sort of the controls you have in place to make sure that doesn't happen, or if it does happen, how you would respond to remediate it, maybe that will give them a level of comfort. But that's going to require, at least in my opinion, and I don't work in HIPAA or in medical, like a focused time to do this. I know when I've done tabletop exercise or disaster recovery exercises, it took like 2 days, right? Like you're in this for 2 days, you're really unpacking the engine and you're talking about recovery and data loss and how you handle things. So I would take all their concerns, document all their concerns on a risk matrix, right? Put how you would address them, and then demonstrate to them how that would actually be an effective control to mitigate that risk.
Thank you.
John, do you have a question?
I think you're doing a great job, though.
Oh. Yes.
Do you have any reflections on what might be special about cybersecurity that it needs these kinds of approaches and tools and techniques relative to any other field?
Yeah, so this is my own opinion, right? This is
Yeah.
like, I just think that okay, I've always thought of myself as a non-technical person, and there's just a lot of people who are deep in the ones and zeros and the weeds, right? There are a lot of people who like to work in, it's secretive. We deal with secrets, we deal with tools. So I just find, sort of in IT, but more so in cybersecurity, that lack of person relatedness is lacking. Right? If I could take a salesperson and make them like 100% like a hardcore hacker, pen tester, coder, that would be the best combination, right? Because then I can sell, I have those tools built and I don't have to learn them, right? But in everything you're doing, even if you're knee deep in your code, you still have to sell to doctor. You still have to sell to your car driver. You have to sell these solutions, and you have to put everything you're doing that's really technical and really fantastic in a way that everyone can understand. Right? You could be the smartest person, the smartest expert in the world, but if you can't explain it and make it fun and engaging, then like, who's going to listen to you? Besides other people who are in that field and understand, you understand that. So that's just been my experience. I'm a bit biased though, right? But I've definitely seen it, right? And sometimes we're right? So maybe, the fear of losing data, maybe the vulnerability, like even if you're right, sometimes it's not what you're saying or how right you are, it's how you deliver the message and where you deliver the message to. And it's these things which are not spoken. Politics, I didn't even get into politics here, I should have gone to cyber diplomacy, but politics is really weird. Like you have to live through it to understand how to play it. But if you don't play it, you're never going to get to the top of the heap, like if you want to get to the top of the heap. But it's just like, it's a very hard thing to understand. And these are unspoken, everything in politics is sort of unspoken, right? So you have to have experience, you have to know it, you have to feel it, it's a vibe. So I just think to be more successful in promoting your own cyber agenda, whatever that is, right? Promoting your own tool, your data lake, whatever it is you're trying to do, it's important to have some tools, tips, and tricks to help you navigate these uncertain waters when you're faced with somebody who's coming in heavy-handed, from a place of authority, or when you're faced with challenges. Oh, yes, sorry.
Okay, I was kind of on the fence about it.
Sorry.
So I've been in a weird situation before where we've had kind of like, it was office politics, and there were both kind of like big dogs of both groups were really good at communicating the things. It's just that one of the ideas was not working, but they were able to gain a lot of like traction and support because they were really good about like rallying people around. Do you have anything to combat everything you talked about? Like kind of like, how do you cut through the like very successful kind of sense of community and getting everything done to kind of like open up the floor again to like, we should re-examine how we've been doing things and looking like more brainstorming idea generation.
Interesting scenario. So the people, right?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. The people who have like the salespeople, or the people who have the most sort of political cloud, Biden cloud, are going this direction, and it's actually the wrong direction, right? And now you're part of the naysayers or the people who read the document, and you're like, we have to re-examine this. How do you go about doing it? I don't know. It's probably different. I'm just going to give you some thoughts off the top of my head. You can't jump on a ship like that's going north and be like, hey, things go south. Like, hey, let's go north, east, east. Right? But you have to turn around slowly, right? Because they're just going to think you're crazy, right? Well, I'm not saying that in a bad meaning, but it's going to come across as like you're wrong because we're already going this way and that's the intention. So, couple of things. Try to do one-on-ones. Don't stake your claim in groups, right? So try to get everyone in that team, say there's 5 people, like get them in a room, one-on-one, and have those debates and take notes, right? So counter all their arguments and then come back with data. Like a lot of my ideas are like, yeah, Hakeem, I had this crazy idea, blah, blah, blah. Like, great, Hakeem, go get some data. Hey, we're doing this thing wrong, come back with data. Or find a test case or a use case or a sandbox or do an MVP or a POC to demonstrate, this is a cheaper solution. It's going to use less, whatever. This is going to be a faster solution. It's going to be able to process more, or this is a more secure solution. Look, you can't get to our medical data because of, so like demonstrate that, but never go back to that whole crew in an open forum and state your case. Do it one-on-one.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll save my question, but in light of trying to be very thankful with the slide and be punctual on ending, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you all.